What's really going on, everyone? Back again with another episode. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at wrgo Pod. That includes TikTok, X, and Instagram. Be sure to like, listen, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, but also where you watch them on platforms like YouTube, where you can see myself, Henry, and our very, very special guest. We are once again continuing our series of interviewing local politicians who are clearly the people on the ground who are doing the work. And today we have the pleasure, the ultimate pleasure of talking to Councilwoman Phylicia Porter. She has the honor of representing Baltimore's 10th district in the city council. She is a proud Baltimore resident and has been a member and constituent of the 10th district for a very long time. She has a deep passion for healthcare, all types of things in terms of actually advocating for a lot of the things that are currently that you're seeing happening with RFK Jr. right now. So she is a great advocate for healthcare for Black communities across Baltimore, especially South Baltimore, which she proudly calls home. So, Councilwoman Porter, we are thrilled to have you on today. I know it's a busy time for both people in this country, but specifically for your city. But how are you?
I am well. I mean, I love to see, democracy in action, but I love to see us rewriting history. So I'm grateful, but I'm great. Yeah.
Good. Well, I think the first question that we have for you is, obviously, many argue that, democracy is protected at the local level. And from your vantage point, on the city council of Baltimore, how do you see your role in safeguarding constituents from democracy? Who would have thought that, being a local politician now would actually have such national implications right now, especially for your city? But just what do you think about that in terms of the role that you play in actually protecting your constituents on a level, on a scale in which you never thought you would probably have to when you took this office?
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. I never thought that I would see a time in the United States where we are combating fascism and authoritarianism within our city councils. So many people think about democracy and they think about the halls of Congress, they think about the Supreme Court, but they don't realize that democracy lives and breathes within our neighborhoods, at our community meetings. And furthermore, as city councilwoman, I take great pride and privilege of protecting democracy. I want people to see that government works and is supposed to work, that is based in reality and facts, and not just a place where you can move laws or change laws simply because of your emotion. Like that's what gets me up every single day.
I really love how you just answer that about just government is made in facts because we see a lot of we've seen, especially since Noah and I have started this podcast in 2016 when that man first approached office. We've seen a lot of just delusion, not
Yes.
facts, a lot of just energy, a lot of emotion. So I really, really appreciate you saying that.
Yeah. And Henry, one of the things that I often remind people is that we at the local level, and the reason why I'm so grateful that you all are focusing on the local level, because we have an opportunity here within our cities to codify laws that can't be done at the federal level. You know what I'm saying? And so we have a direct opportunity to change a lot of the implications that are happening at the federal level with our president.
And I think, go ahead, Eric. My bad.
You got it.
And I think one thing that I think is often interesting is, especially now, I think Maryland, I'm a proud Maryland resident. I think our state and Baltimore have, I think, the unique, position of privilege to, I think, be represented by such a wide swath of just Black leaders. Can you at least talk about how us having even a governor in terms of Westmore who's willing to also, can you talk about how this is not just an effort for you on the city council or for the mayor, but it takes everyone at every level to equally be engaged. And it seems like everyone in Maryland, even from our great Black woman senator in terms of Angela Also Brooks, everyone seems to be holding the same line. Can you at least talk about how this is taking you, everyone else, to clearly have one band, one sound here?
Yeah, and Noah, you hit the nail. Like I am so adamant about one band, one sound, but I'm also adamant, and I'm sure our mayor, Mayor Brandon Scott, great friend of
Mhm.
mine, he would also say if you don't get in line, you get sidelined. So I think that's where we are in the state of Maryland. Like we cannot afford to allow our civil liberties and just our rights to be trampled over, but also we cannot allow a president to believe that he can come into a state to enact any type of federal action that he wants to. That's just not how we move here in Maryland. And you mentioned everyone working at the same level, like our governor, Governor Westmore, great friend. He's on the same page. Our senator, Senator Angela Alsobrooks, we are all on the same page. Mayor Brandon Scott, our city council, our city
Yeah.
council is not only just dynamic, but we are quite spirited. I was quite spirited in supporting because here's the thing that folks don't understand. When you look at initiatives that are happening at the federal level from our president, they are also supported by the legislative body, which is the Congress. And so here in the city of Baltimore, our legislators, our Congress is really our city councils. We make the laws, we set the tone. We set the tone of how things should be done, how our liberty should be protected, but also how we can be a national leader for other city councils to take what we're doing here in the city of Baltimore and replicating it within their cities as well. Like this ain't the time to just be, the lone man on the lone
Yeah.
island. Again, if you are not in lockstep with what we are doing, you will get sidelined. And I think that we have seen that here in the city of Baltimore. We've seen that here in the state of Maryland. We're
See,
setting the precedents.
I love that for y'all because I used to be a Maryland resident. However, I done came back home to Georgia. And in Georgia, Atlanta
A little
politics
different.
is way different than Georgia politics.
Very different.
It's
But
not
but but
one band,
y'all
one
got good
sound
people.
down here.
Yeah, but y'all got good people. One of my sheroes, and I often share with people, one of my sheroes, Stacey Adams,
Mhm.
single-handedly transform
Mm.
Democratic politics in the state of Georgia. And I hope to meet her one day, putting it out there because y'all gonna be big that everybody gonna see you. I would love to meet her one day because, when we look at the resistance to fascism and authoritarianism, Stacey Adams comes to mind, but it comes to mind in a very strategic and very scalpel-like way that most didn't even pick up what she was putting down when she was doing it.
For sure.
And like I really, really like I agree with you. I feel like in Georgia, Stacey came and she really hit the ground. She didn't focus on what a lot of I think politicians from Georgia or the city of Atlanta do. They focus on the city. She went to the rural areas and she hit the ground and she's still her nonprofit organization Fair Fight is still active, especially with this governor race coming up, because we see that Kemp recently deployed troops
Yeah.
to DC, and that's not something we stand for. So, like, to not transition, but just move the conversation a little further. How do you think, like, how do you, as a city council person, balance, like, giving constituents hope and faith that, oh, I should vote for this person and I can believe that this person is actually going to deliver on the promises that they've put forth, considering we are in a broken system. Kamala Harris said it herself. How would you speak toward that?
So first and foremost, I just want to give you a little bit of context because when people think about Baltimore City, they think that it's just a unilaterally Democratic city. And Noah, you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Baltimore, I serve South Baltimore. I serve 41,000 residents in the city of Baltimore. 40% of my base is Trump supporters. 40% of my base are Trump supporters. And when I came in, I said, look, we're not going to focus on the fact that you support a man that does not care for or even believe in a politician that looks like me. But I'm going to find a way of commonality to make sure that I can show you and demonstrate that I'm well worthy for the position to serve, but also that our needs are not that different. You know what I'm saying? Like our needs are not that different. So when I think about accountability, I first go in with a positive mindset and say, okay, we got something that we want to tackle together. Now, we are in a very different time. racism and sexism, xenophobia, all the things are really getting into people's brain that simply because of the way that I look, I'm stupid.
Yeah,
I don't know nothing, you know?
yeah,
And I had to alter that sense of accountability because, Lauren Coates said that actually this morning. I don't have to argue with stupidity. I argue with those that want to make a difference within their community. I want to partner with those that want to see a change in South Baltimore, in the city of Baltimore. And that's where my mind of accountability is now, because there are some folks that just simply the way that I look and the way that I talk, and just simply who I am, will
yeah,
always have a negative connotation and a negative aspect towards me. And I simply don't seek to do government with them. I will continue to serve them. I'll continue to serve them with, a wonderful smile on my face, but I don't have to argue with things that we know are pertinent. Slavery is bad. Racism is bad. Sexism and xenophobia is bad. We know those are bad. I don't have to argue with that. But when we can come to a commonality and come to a table and say, we need to fix a broken system, and who are and what are the levels of government, who are the elected officials that we need to engage, that's when we have a state of accountability. I think
yeah,
that Democrats have been nice for way too long. We've been playing these respectability politics for way too long. And I just don't and I mean I look a certain way, so people are like, oh my God, she's so nice. But but I will take it there. You take it further. I'll take it further. And it's an
yeah,
opportunity for us to really put the line in the sand that in this Democratic Party, this new Democratic Party of leaders that are coming up, we will not stand for it. Because here's the thing that I don't believe that people understand. When you allow one thing, when you allow rights to be taken away for one audience, one demographic, they are coming for you. They are severely coming for you. Those are the tenets of white supremacy that many people do not look at. And so I that was the original framing of the Democratic Party. We have lost that, and now we have to get back in line with those types of politics that have a no holds bar. We can't
yeah.
afford it.
Yeah, and I think what's most refreshing, and I think we've experienced this in, Henry could be my check, but I think in the last year that I think since Trump, when we've interviewed local officials like yourself who are really doing the work, I think we've just seen more of a willingness from just people like yourself to be like, you know what, this conversation, I'm not even going to entertain this anymore.
Look, let me tell you
And
something.
here's the thing, and I think a thing that I think gives Henry and I like that real hope now. And I think one of the things to kind of pivot it slightly in terms of I think you trying to focus on the issues where even if there is a big disagreement between you and one of your constituents, you know that this issue is something that's important. And there's certainly no one doing more on healthcare in the city than yourself. Can you at least talk about some of the work that you've seen and that you've tried to do with, especially around addiction, especially as the CDC is getting cut left and right, NIH, all these other things. Can you just talk about one, kind of what your experience is directly in Baltimore dealing with this issue, but how, now there's going to have to be some really tough conversations about what can we as a local government do now that we know that we might not have the backing of kind of some traditional services in DC. So can you talk about just like one, your work in the space, which I think is second to none also.
Yeah, sure. I can definitely talk about my work in the space. And just to give a little context, I am a public health scientist by training. And so I've worked at, the agencies that are being cut, the
Mhm.
NIH, the
Yeah.
FDA, the CDC, CMS. So I've worked in all
Yeah.
of, most of the government agencies. So my lens of healthcare and public health is a little bit different because I bring the Baltimore flavor and the Baltimore grit to it. We have seen in Baltimore just records amount of overdose and addiction that have plagued
Mhm.
our communities for generations. You have some sociologists that believe that it started in the 1990s. I could
Mhm.
argue and debate that it started after Vietnam,
Mhm.
particularly in Black communities. When we are looking at the plague of the opioid addiction within our city, we need to have a larger historical context than just simply after the crack era, simply,
Mhm.
within 2000s or 2010s, and even currently with the fentanyl crisis. So in the city of Baltimore, I'm taking a much broader and really a cultural approach to how we are approaching addiction. So most people, when they think of recovery, they simply think of, just putting people in
Yeah.
clinics, substance abuse
Mhm.
clinics, shipping them to a place where they are not close to their family. They are not close
Mhm.
to anything. You know what I'm saying? So they are very
Yeah.
isolated. here in the city of Baltimore, we are integrating recovery into the everyday lives of our community. So we want to make sure that folks are connected with their families. They're not being connected to the environments that got them there, to the addiction in the first place. We're not saying that, but we know that folks, when they have an addiction, spiraling and making sure whatever trigger that may be, they have a coping mechanism and a network around them so that they don't relapse. And
Yeah.
so we are doing that here in the city of Baltimore. Mayor Scott has really worked through, from an executive side, some programming related to the opioid crisis. But my work centers on the actual laws, the legislative side. So making sure that our laws for behavioral health and substance abuse clinics do not exacerbate addictions. We don't have churn mills within Black
Yeah.
and Brown communities where we are just churning people out, in and out, in and out. We are making sure that we have behavioral health experts that are actually at the
Yeah.
table, not just simply people that want to make money. I had a meeting earlier this week, and I shared that, folks believe that simply because you come into the city of Baltimore, the level and the standard of care is not there. And that goes for any Black community.
Hmm. Yeah.
They're just like, oh, we just gonna put it here, and we just gonna allow these people to just continue in a place of addiction, of non-helpful harm reduction recovery. And we just gonna do it anyway, because what are they gonna do about it? Now we about to call your bluff. We about to call your bluff in the city of Baltimore. So that's why we're all working in lockstep, creating laws, but also creating the enforcement mechanisms and partnerships at the state and federal level so that we can get these bad actors out of our communities. We don't see these types of bad actors in affluent communities. And you want to know why? I'm gonna give you want to know why? I, I'm, I'm,
Come on, come on.
I'm
Keep
going to
cooking.
take you.
We're letting you roll.
I'm taking y'all to church
Yeah,
because
please.
because folks believe that they can just do it without any repercussions. That
Yeah.
is the issue. Sorry, y'all. That is the issue. Let me fix this one
No,
second.
you're good.
That is the issue. And I got a little excited. That is the
That's all
issue.
right.
Um, they believe that they can do it without repercussions. And there will be repercussions for you being in our communities and producing a non-quality forming and a sustainable approach to recovery. And so
And
that's what.
I especially love that because when we first started this, we interviewed a state representative in Georgia named Inga Willis, and she was also doing some really good work about trying to investigate and get some research on hair care products that we use, and kind of doing that same thing to just say, hey, if something is not clearly not working, and if the data says that something is not working, why aren't we questioning that? And I
Yes.
think I love the aspect. Can you speak even to just the importance of both enforcement? Because I do think that we kind of get lost in that we can write any rule, but if we're not able to slap away the bad hand, what
Yes.
are we really doing? But also just that aspect of actual programming.
Yes.
Because I think when people hear these ideas, they're like, what does that actually mean? And I'd love if you could speak a little bit more about just the aspect of what you're doing to have more behavioral health experts and just their actual importance, because I think we like to throw kind of money at a lot of these problems without recognizing that we actually need bodies in a lot of these communities and what the actual individuals who are needed to be. So can you talk a little bit about just one, out some of that stuff in terms of enforcement, but just also the need just to have more people, because that is important.
I sure can. So first I'll talk about the enforcement capability. When people talk about enforcement, they're like, oh, Phylicia, you're just wanting to just shut down
Yeah.
business. No, that's not what I'm talking about. If you're doing the right thing and you're acting in a way that is favorable to the community, that is in compliance with the full public health model, then we can have a conversation. But if you are not, you can't keep poisoning our communities. You can't keep allowing something to happen within our communities that furthermore is going to negatively impact Black and Brown people for generations to come. So I'll give you an example. One of my major initiatives is really targeting bad actors of substance abuse and mental health clinics within the city of Baltimore. I believe that there's an oversaturation in the city of Baltimore, predominantly in Black and Brown communities. On one commercial corridor alone, we have seven, and
Mm.
sometimes we have upwards of 11. that
Yeah.
literally are plaguing our commercial corridors. They're plaguing our Black and brown communities. And I took a stance. I said, hey, we are not going to allow these clinics within our community. So hopefully, once the bill is introduced, I'll be taking
Mhm.
health clinics out of the zoning code classification for commercial corridors. And
Yeah.
that will essentially create a moratorium on those types of clinics on commercial corridors within the city of Baltimore. We have enough. It's not the quantity of the
Yeah.
clinics, it's the
Quality.
quality of the clinics. And that was a municipal level action that I introduced within my role and jurisdiction as city council. Now that prompts the state. That prompts the
Hmm.
state
Yeah.
to say, hey, they took healthcare clinics out of the commercial corridors within the city of Baltimore. Let me see what's happening in those current clinics,
Yeah.
so it's not growing the population.
Hmm.
It's essentially stopping the population from growing, and it's becoming a focus of those who are in community. And then from there, you'll see a series of legislation that come out of my committee that I chair about healthcare quality. What does a quality substance abuse and mental health clinic look like? How can you distinguish a good from a bad one?
Yeah.
What are the ways, what are the regulations at the state level that we can work with our Maryland General Assembly to ensure that we are not promoting and or replicating bad actors, and so it goes to not only just the zoning capabilities, but it goes to the partnership between local electeds and state electeds to get something done.
Yeah, I'm glad you speak toward like the need for us to have this synergy across the board. Like we said at the beginning, one band, one sound. We see like Trump is attempting to kind of take over cities, black cities at that, and what he's doing in DC. And when we see like Mayor Bowser get up there and say, "Hey, I'm okay with them being here," but like us as a community, we're like, "Whoa, lady, what are you doing?" Um, they floated the ideal of coming to Baltimore, Chicago, New York. What's your response to those threats, and how would you speak toward like preparing your constituents, considering the seat you sit in?
So first and foremost, ain't nothing like a Jet 2 holiday, okay? Ain't nothing like a Jet 2 holiday. And here in the city of Baltimore, we don't play that. We don't play that. So this is an opportunity. I'm gonna claim that y'all gonna get, this gonna go nationally.
I
So
know that's right.
I'm gonna
It
claim it.
will.
I'm gonna
It will
claim it.
now.
It
I'm gonna
will
claim
now.
it. And so, here in the city of Baltimore, we align with this with a list of laws called the Constitution. We align we align with a list of laws called the Constitution. And so we have some of the best attorneys here in the city of Baltimore. Our
Yeah.
city solicitor, Ebony Thompson, is an amazing,
Mhm.
amazing, amazing, amazing attorney. She won't let that happen. We in the city council will not let that happen. Our mayor will not let that happen. Our governor, who is the commander in chief of the National Guard, if you want to talk about federalizing any type of
You got to
armed
go through
forces,
West.
you got to go through the governor. That is his authority. And so and I it's just delusion. Like it's just delusion. And quite frankly, and I'm gonna make y'all laugh again. I want to report this to HR. Like, who can I report this to?
We've been trying to figure out since 2016. So
I
when you
Yeah.
mean,
out,
where is
We've been
the chain
shining
of
the light.
command? Where's the chain of command? Because I want to go to HR. I really want to go to HR. I really do. I really do. I really do.
well,
And
Go ahead.
kind of maybe. I guess for me, as a young man who has understood politics at a little bit below the surface level, but for what I know, the Supreme Court is HR. To that's
Right.
that's the boss in charge, right?
They out of office a little bit.
that's what I'm saying. I
They
mean,
on they are on that holiday
who do
that,
you,
that
who do you go
Councilwoman
to?
spoke of.
That's what I'm
That,
saying. Who do you go to? Like, where is the HR manual? Okay, what is happening?
and I
What
If
is
you find
happening?
it, let us know.
That's
Look,
what we want to know is like constituents because the everyday person, it looks
guys,
like this man can do whatever, say whatever,
no,
act however.
guys. And he can't. He can. And I think that here's and this is something, Henry, just in all seriousness, I'm joking about it, but in all seriousness, what I advise constituents, I say the laws are in place for a reason. And the laws are in place for us to not only enforce the laws, but also to protect the laws. So the president is not able to supersede the Constitution. He's just not
Mhm.
able to. And you know, the Supreme Court, the judiciary branch, in any level of government is strictly there to interpret the laws. So you have the executive branch that executes the laws, you have the legislative branch that makes the laws, the judiciary interprets the laws. And so there is not a law that can be interpreted and or to my knowledge, that can be interpreted that allows the president this large lion's share of power that he believes that he has of an oligarchy or a kingdom. This is democracy. We are a country full of laws that protect us.
Yeah, and I think that's the more difficult thing, Councilman, is I think a lot of stuff is being reinterpreted, including the national narrative about your city.
Mhm.
Given that I think there's a conversation that has happened nationally that we had on our previous episode when we talked about DC, but the president and Republicans have taken to Baltimore, even though it's having its lowest ever percentage in a long time of how, can
Excuse
you at
me.
least talk about at least what is functionally, because Henry and I have long had this conversation about people just need to know actual facts. And
Yeah.
there's, you know, your facts are scattered when you believe anybody. And I think, can you actually talk about the work that you, the mayor, and so many have done for years, and how actually what's happening in Baltimore right now is actually a really big accomplishment that actually needs to be studied for positive, for that other cities can take. Can you actually talk about what is happening in terms of the homicides in the city and the work that has gone into having this current period that is the best that it's been in a long, long time? Just also by just setting the record straight, because we do here believe in facts.
And I appreciate that. And the work that we have done here in the city has taken a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
This is not something that has
Mm-hmm.
happened under happened under just one particular administration. This is something that has been brewing for a long, long time. And I will tell you, the investment is it's so wonderful when when you're coming up as a political community organizer and you're like, oh, I want to learn from the OGs. I want to learn how they got here to when you're actually a decision maker. So we are decision makers in the city of Baltimore, and
Mm-hmm.
we direct where community engagement is supposed to go. We direct how public safety, public health, public infrastructure are defined, and that comes at a cost. That comes at a cost when you are looking at those that want to twist and skew facts in this altered state of reality. That means that you have got to double down and sometimes triple down on sharing the positivity that's what's happening in Baltimore. And we got to do it in our own city too. We have folks within our city, and to their credit, they are not feeling the the accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
They aren't.
Yeah.
They aren't feeling the
Mm-hmm.
accomplishments yet. And I'm not here to debate with
Yeah.
people about their feelings because they feel what they feel. It
Mm-hmm.
is my job. It is my job. It is our job as a government to make sure that the feeling and the accomplishments mirror each other. So for example, when we're talking about the opioid restitution funds that are coming to the city of Baltimore, I, as the public health chair, sit on the opioid restitution board. It was started under the executive order of Mayor Scott. And we are coming up on a time where we are distilling those funds into community. So what does that look like? We know that grandma been in the community doing this community engagement work for years on her own dime. Why not fund her? Why not provide her with the financial capabilities so that she can scale her operation and her program throughout the entire community? I, as a decision maker, am able to do that. The mayor, as a decision maker, is able to do that. And that's what comes with making waves. That's what comes with changing narrative. When people are able to feel, to touch, to see government in action, in action, that is going to change the narrative. And quite frankly, when we go across the nation, myself included, people love to hear about what we're doing in Baltimore. They're like, Phylicia, how can we replicate what you all are doing here in Baltimore? And so I think that this whole premise of the narrative of Baltimore as being the home of the wire, that is changing. Baltimore is a
Mm-hmm.
leader. Baltimore is a nation catalyst of change within within our nation. And quite frankly, we still got a little bit of grit. Don't get us wrong. We still scrap up.
Mhm.
We still scrap up. But we understand that our narrative is not where we've been, it's where we're going in the future. And there is a wonderful group of leaders here in the city that not only just government, but community based as well, that are pushing that narrative. And we got to start talking about, like, quite frankly, we got to start, calling a spade and calling people like, you're a liar. Like we gotta start like pushing people to the limit and how they talk about us. And that's where having a wonderful social media, talking with, folks across the nation about what we're doing. Like we are actively changing that narrative. And I will tell you, it's something that I pride myself on because I'm born and raised here. So I done seen a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
I done been through a lot of stuff
yeah,
as a Black woman in the city of Baltimore with advanced degrees. I done been through some stuff to get here. This ain't just happened overnight.
yeah,
And I'm up for the challenge. We gotta we look with the representative in LA say we squabble up. In
yeah,
Baltimore, we get down. We don't.
Oh man. I totally agree with you that local politicians, state board, like every type of politician needs to do better at increasing the messaging and awareness of the actual work that they're doing. Because I also agree with your statement of a everyday constituent is not going to just advocate for you or even want to engage with you unless they do see the real-time implications, especially when I'm working 2 to 3 jobs to afford this rent and my wages aren't going up and then I can't go to the doctor and all of these things. And I know that work for you is very tiring. So I would just be curious to know, like after a long day of squabbling up or the grid or whatever you call it there.
The
How do
squabble.
you like,
yeah,
how
Yep,
do
yep,
you
yep.
let your hair down and just, take a load off, decompress from the day?
Yeah, so as you can see, I love to laugh. I believe in creating Black joy. I really do. And one of my modes this year was rest is resistance. And furthermore, I know that we are literally like the house is literally burning and we're all in the house. The house is literally burning. And I choose to believe and adopt this positivity mindset because we will get through this. Our ancestors have dealt with 400 years of slavery. We have dealt with, the last 50 to 60 years of segregation, Jim Crow, and where we are now. We will get through this. We will get through this together, and we will get through this as a people, and we will be whole. We will be whole. And so I laugh a lot. I laugh a lot. And even in some of the most serious situations, I find joy or find remnants of joy. And so after a long day, I'm going to come home and I'm going to scroll through TikTok and you know, look at like the hashtags of, Jet to holiday, just to see, just to laugh,
just see what's up.
just to see what's up,
You
just
know
to
what I mean?
laugh
Yeah,
and be in a space of joy because my job, like literally, my first 5 years, I had the worst mass shooting in Baltimore's history, and
mhm,
also I had the Key Bridge collapse in my
yeah,
district. So I have experienced levels of trauma that many local elected officials will never see
never quit.
in their political career in their lifetime. And it allowed me to one reframe how I experience joy, how I cope and level myself, how I need to go to therapy every single week because we do not need functioning depression happening within our elected leaders. We need clear conscious, we need clear direction of what is really happening. And lastly, I love to get my hair done. So I will go and get the hair and nails and be okay. Look, what they say, what the kids say, clock it. The kids say clock it, you know? And I'm doing it with it, I'm doing it. Okay.
Yeah, there it is.
So I love to experience self-care in a way that is not just from a physical perspective, but from a mental perspective as well. And I think that that's important for our local leaders, particularly our Black women. When we are looking at Black women with regard to how they are the largest voting base in the United States. But if you look at the leadership capabilities of Black women within elected office, it is not there. And so we got a long
Mm.
fight ahead to not shatter the glass ceiling, but I want to kick my foot. I want to kick my foot through the ceiling to the moon
Mm.
so that people behind me will not have to deal with the issues that I'm dealing with right now as a Black woman elected in political office in these United States.
Were you like a deacon or a pastor in your past?
In a
I don't
former
know.
life.
Give me the Holy Ghost over here now.
No, but I mean, and here's the thing, like I just love my people, but I also realize that we as a people have trauma and stress ingrained within our genome. We got to change it. And our DNA is plastic. Our DNA is able to be changed. And I feel like us in our generation, we are actively changing that so that generations after us will not have to deal with the same level of trauma that we've had to deal with.
I love all of that. And I think um, from Henry, myself, all the people listening, all the people watching, I think we appreciate you for being the leader that you are, and that it includes being authentically you. Because I think, as Henry and I have talked about it, we've met more politicians, some interviews that have gone really well, some that we regret that we did. Authenticity is certainly a choice. And I
Yes.
think we thank you for being the person that you are and choosing to be in public life and the person that you are. And I think for all of the people who want to keep up with you, who want to follow you on social media, who want to follow you and get your message, especially as your city and especially your district, because the Francis Key Scott Bridge is now becoming a political target as early as this week.
Look.
Um, please tell where people can follow you, tweet at you, email you, wherever you want people to follow you or contact you. That now is the choice. The freedom is yours to share all of your social.
Thank you. So you can all follow me on Facebook. I am Phylicia Porter. Instagram, I am Phylicia Porter again, Phylicia Porter. And then on TikTok, guess what? I am Phylicia Porter. So so
Consistency.
and the reason, it's so funny because most electeds have like, very like formal names.
Yeah.
And I had a friend and colleague, Rock Mitchell. Shout out to Rock. He was like, Phylicia, you are Phylicia Porter. Now he was like, you ever thought about changing your social media handles to I am Phylicia Porter? And so that just reminds me
Yeah.
of who I am. And when I step into the room, I am not only just Phylicia Porter, I am the representation of all of who I am
Mm.
instead of just one facet.
Mhm.
I love that. Well, we will continue to engage with you, Councilwoman Porter, and be sure to continue to engage with us. We are continuing this series on because we've gotten such good feedback, and we know you all, the audience, will enjoy this. So be sure to follow us on all of our social media. That includes TikTok, X, and Instagram at WRGO Pod. Be sure to like, listen, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Be sure to watch us on YouTube. And thank you to everyone. We have now also hit our 150th episode. So thank you to all who are watching us, especially in Dublin, because I've noticed that over the last month, we've had a good amount of listeners come from Ireland. So we thank you and we look forward to the next time.